Appearing calm and in control, Iraqi President Saddam Hussein was seen in his most recent TV appearance conferring with his top officials. How they direct Iraq's accounting of its weapons of mass destruction this weekend will determine global reaction. UN Resolution 1441 calls for Iraq to give accurate, full and complete declaration of all aspects of its programs to develop chemical, biological and nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles, as well as all other chemical, biological and nuclear programs, including those which it claims are for purposes not related to weapons production or materiel. So far, Iraqi officials, apart from denying possession of weapons of mass destruction, have given a few clues to what it may contain. The handover, however, will likely have maximum media exposure. Iraqi officials have so far been keen to show they are complying with Resolution 1441. From here, the document will be hand-carried to the International Atomic Energy Agency in Vienna and to UN headquarters in New York, where analysts will compare it to a million-page database compiled from previous inspections. For now, though, even the simplest of questions have yet to be answered. Inspectors here suspect it will be some time before they can follow up on any point in the declaration. Regardless of content, as Iraq's declaration reaches New York, more inspectors will be arriving here. Already, among the skeletal ruins of one chemical warfare site, inspectors have accounted for some of Iraq's old mustard gas munitions. What else may be lurking in other closets could be revealed this weekend. Nick Robertson, CNN, Baghdad.
Go back to the press center and organize all the things here, and we are going to move at 1:30 from here.
Where we go?
You will see. At 1:30.
1:30. CC?
Please enter the press center. We are going to leave at 1:30 from here. I'll be with you. Please. At 1:30. 1:30 from here. We are going to leave at 1:30 from here. Please, the press center.
So, where is it exactly?
I don't know. You will see. At 1:30.
So intense the pressure to get the first pictures of Iraq's declaration of weapons of mass destruction, journalists jockeying for position broke windows. Finally, inside, laid out in orderly rows, the paperwork the world has been waiting to see. Document upon document on A4 size paper, some labelled currently accurate, others titled full and complete declaration. In total, 11,807 pages plus 529 megabytes of data on CD-ROMs, ready to be handed over to UN officials. Journalists were not allowed to open the documents to read what's inside. The information in this room likely defining for many governments Iraq's compliance with UN Resolution 1441. Iraqi officials say producing this declaration has been a huge project involving the work of more than 100 scientists. Indeed, they say barely 24 hours before the declaration's handover, they've been fine-tuning its details. It is, Iraqi officials insist, enough to prevent war. But when asked if the document would answer UN questions, such as what happened to the 500 bombs designed for delivering chemical and biological weapons, questions still unresolved since inspectors left in 1998, this response. General Amin reasserted that Iraq has no weapons of mass destruction, and he challenged the United States to give the declaration a careful review. Despite the focus on the declaration, inspectors were still at work visiting 2 more sites, apparently with good cooperation from Iraqi officials. How easy their job continues to be is now defined on the pages already beginning their journey to New York and Vienna. Nick Robertson, CNN, Baghdad. The now familiar early morning handshake. Iraqi officials greeting the UN experts before chasing them through Baghdad's rundown suburbs, past bemused shepherds in the country to the day's inspection site. This day, Fallujah military-industrial complex, 60 kilometers northwest of Baghdad. Day 10 of the inspections. A day of possible discovery for the chemical, biological and missile experts examining the partially destroyed chemical complex. A day also of expectation for the US and other governments pressing the inspectors ever harder to show progress. According to site officials, the inspectors questioning them for 3.5 hours. These officials happy to talk privately, but only on site. Much of this chlorine and phenol production facility bombed in 91 and 98, rebuilt each time. Much of the equipment now producing detergent and water purifiers, according to site officials, has been under UN monitoring since the early 1990s. All such equipment recorded in Iraq's declaration of weapons of mass destruction. Crowding the steps of the UN headquarters, recently arrived inspectors and more seasoned experts prepare for work. An influx of almost 50 UN inspectors in the last few days, accelerating the pace and scope of inspections. The first team heading north. This team of chemical, biological and missile experts heading west. Suddenly pulling over to the side of the road. Unclear if this is the new declaration. Iraqi officials apparently happy to help regardless. The stop on the busy highway, however, causing a minor crash. From small incident to major bureaucratic headache within minutes. Teams of police of ever-increasing rank pulling up with forms to fill, closely followed by UN security officials recording the event themselves, starting their own paper trail. Finally, entering the factory, for the newcomers, a first taste of work in Iraq, under the gaze of President Saddam Hussein. Mostly out of sight, inspectors could occasionally be seen in protective gear, after 3.5 hours wrapping up their work, apparently without further problems. No site can be particularly easy for the inspectors to find their way around first time, but perhaps their job here made a little easier by this sign, pointing to the strategic storage unit. According to plant manager Colonel Saeed, a successful first visit to a new factory listed on Iraq's recent weapons declaration.
It is the first time because it was established in 1999 and the inspectors left in 1998.
Parts of the Al Fatah factory still under construction. In the machine shop, if previous inspections are any guide, likely the new UN experts will be back here again. Now it's on Iraq's declared list of sites. Nick Robertson, CNN, Baghdad. Iraqi scientists like these, seen recently presenting Iraq's weapons declaration, may hold the final key in determining Iraq's compliance with Resolution 1441. Now that Iraq's declaration is undergoing expert analysis and inspectors are fanning out all over the country, the only other area inspectors have any power in is the right to interview scientists, how, when and where, including out of the country, they choose. The hope for US officials is that one Iraqi scientist spilling the beans will open the floodgates for others to follow. Once the trickle begins, the theory goes, the dam will burst and Iraq's most secure secrets will be exposed. The idea doesn't sit well here. Asked if he'd leave Iraq for UN questioning, President Saddam Hussein's top scientific advisor replied, officials here, however, do make it clear they are willing to talk. In his meetings here 3 weeks ago, Chief Weapons Inspector Hans Blix told Iraqi officials he wanted a list of all their scientists. Nothing so far has been forthcoming, although the nuclear inspectors do have their own list. Blix has said he is not an abduction agency and has questioned his power to overrule Iraqi objections to taking scientists out of the country. Iraq has many thousands of scientists. A few hundred were seen on Iraqi TV recently being rewarded for their work. If the on-site inspections can be likened to looking for a needle in a haystack, getting a scientist out of Iraq is going to be like pulling a quill from an invisible porcupine. How and whether to do it, the thorniest of issues facing Blix. Nick Robertson, CNN, Baghdad. Evidence, if more were needed, the pace of inspections picking up here. 25 UN experts arriving at Saddam International Airport, joining the 42-strong force already at work. This day, 5 UN teams, instead of the normal 2, spreading out across Iraq. Ibn al-Haytham Industrial Engineering Complex, just 20 kilometers south of Baghdad, the closest inspection to the city. Air conditioning units and generators among the civilian products. Of high interest to inspectors, computer control precision engineering equipment, able to work to the fine tolerances required by some military applications. The furthest site visited, Akashat, a former phosphate and uranium mine, a 5.5-hour drive across Iraq's western desert to the Syrian border. Al-Tuwaitha, Iraq's primary atomic research facility, visited for the 4th consecutive day, as well as an animal vaccine plant 40 kilometers west of Baghdad. In contrast, President Saddam Hussein, appearing on Iraqi TV with his 2 sons, Qusay Saddam Hussein and Uday Saddam Hussein, and with employees of Iraq's Military Industrial Commission. The Iraqi president praises the men for their efforts to face their enemies' aggressive conspiracies. And from Iraq's foreign ministry, sharp criticism of the US acquisition of Iraq's unedited declaration before it was distributed to other UN Security Council members. The ministry accusing the US of carrying out a blackmail unprecedented in the history of the UN, saying America aims to manipulate the UN documents to find covers for aggression on Iraq. With the new weapons experts in town and the first of a fleet of 8 helicopters almost ready for use, the rate of inspections look likely to outpace the flow of rhetoric, for now at least. Nick Robertson, CNN, Baghdad. By the time Iraq's top interlocutor with the UN, General Hussam Amin, got to the inspection site, word was out there was a problem, and he was being summoned by the UN to deal with it. 2 hours earlier, when UN experts first arrived at Baghdad's Communicable Disease Control Center, there was little indication of the problems that lay ahead. This day, however, a Friday, the Muslim holy day, the first Islamic Sabbath, worked by the inspectors. Apart from the UN experts, the disease center appeared deserted. Behind an upstairs window, work ground to a halt. That's when the UN called in top officials, resolving the situation in minutes. UN officials playing down the significance of the situation. Inspectors saying little more before leaving. Later, however, stating the keys for several rooms could not be found and that they would return. The disease center janitor offering his insight.
It's an official holiday, Friday, so every staffer has a key for his room. This is the only problem that happened.
The staff with the keys at home, taking Friday off. This is the first time senior UN officials and their Iraqi counterparts have been called into an inspection site to deal with an issue. It is a test not only of their hotline, but of the goodwill built up over recent weeks. Nick Robertson, CNN, Baghdad. Gambling on their future. Not a national pastime, but a national passion, played out 3 days a week in Baghdad's stock exchange. Professional and pensioner rub shoulders as they bid to buy and sell their way to a better future. An average of 40 to 50 million shares, valued at 300 to 500 million Iraqi dinars, about $200,000, exchanged each trading day. Research Director Taha Salam talks me through the day's trades. For this stock, about 1/10 of a US cent. More up than down, he says, in its 10-year history, growing nearly 20 times higher, with a market capitalization of 325 billion Iraqi dinars, or 160 million US dollars. So with 114 Iraqi companies to invest in, the million dinar question. Safety in soft drinks, and apparently in the exchange's resilience. It kept trading through the 1998 coalition bombing. Safer even than Wall Street, they say, because controls limit daily fluctuations to 5%. For pensioner Salam, checking his day's investments, safe enough, he says, to dabble in just to pass the time. Although the market closed down this day and the figures don't look so good, and the fortunes made and lost here are small in comparison with the West, this market is one of the rare places in Baghdad where you can find hope in the future. Nick Robertson's CNN, Baghdad. Gambling on their future, not a national pastime, but a national passion, played out 3 days a week in Baghdad's stock exchange. Professional and pensioner rub shoulders as they bid to buy and sell their way to a better future. An average of 40 to 50 million shares, valued at 300 to 500 million Iraqi dinars, about $200,000, exchanged each trading day. Research Director Taha Salam talks me through the day's trades. For this stock, about 1/10 of a US cent. More up than down, he says, in its 10-year history, growing nearly 20 times higher, with a market capitalization of 325 billion Iraqi dinars, or 160 million US dollars. So with 114 Iraqi companies to invest in, the million dinar question. Safety in soft drinks, and apparently in the exchange's resilience. It kept trading through the 1998 coalition bombing. Safer even than Wall Street, they say, because controls limit daily fluctuations to 5%. For pensioner Salam, checking his day's investments, safe enough, he says, to dabble in just to pass the time. Although the market closed down this day and the figures don't look so good, and the fortunes made and lost here are small in comparison with the West, this market is one of the rare places in Baghdad where you can find hope in the future. Nick Robertson's CNN, Baghdad.